Now, unrelated to that, you have a posting at Local 12 that says, rise in intimate injuries among men reported around Valentine's Day. I had on a frequent guest, Dr. Alan Cordell, about this, and, of course, this is live in the afternoon. Tell us what the intimate problem is with people like Tony Bender. What is the problem?
I'm hoping maybe it would be a good thing if Tony Bender was having, what do they call it, like overactive or overstimulated sexual intimacy.
Yes.
Some people would think that's a good thing, but it's actually resulting in greater penile fractures in guys. And I don't know what your other expert said, but one of the first German studies to actually track this says it goes up around romantic holidays. So Christmas, Valentine's Day. And then the urologist that I talked to at the urology group here said they see it on the weekends. They see it in summertime. So, confirmation is truth. And you guys were talking about this because you're famous for not going to the doctor.
Right. And so you're saying, can you explain what happens with a penile fracture? Is it like a broken arm or a broken finger? What happens?
Well, I asked him that. I'm like, so I have to confess, haven't had this experience that I know of with a gentleman. And he said, you hear like a pop. When like you throw your meniscus out, you'll hear a pop.
Oh.
Does that sound painful? Yeah.
Yes.
But he said there's not a bone that actually breaks, but the inner lining can actually fracture. And what it does then is you'll notice that there's like blood in the urine, or it starts to swell up. Or he even described that you might have like an hourglass shape or the purple eggplant shape. And all of these things, I said, well, I understand it's embarrassing. Couldn't you just like let it heal on its own and not have to go to the doctor?
Right.
And he said, it'll heal on its own. It just probably won't heal right.
So maybe
that's the problem.
Could be crooked, something like that.
Well, he said it could be deformed, which would make like intercourse painful. He also said it could lead to erectile dysfunction, or just even later in life, urinary tract problems and things like that. So you don't want to mess with that. So The reason I was like, we need to tell people this is not one of those things where you go, I'm not going to the doctor. Like, get help, he said, and get it within the 24 hours that you either hear the pop or notice that there's something that looks a little eggplantish going on down there.
Assuming you go to the doctor, which would be quite embarrassing, I imagine your wife or significant other would take you. That would be very embarrassing. But then when you get there, do they put it in a splint, or what do they do, like popsicle splint? What happens?
Yeah, I asked him. He said they can very carefully they'll do some examination to find out if it's really the kind of pop that, gave you a penile fracture. And then what they'll do is they'll go in and very carefully put back together what has been severed. Sorry. So it may take, if that center of the lining is ruptured, they got to kind of stitch it back together or put it back together. Ooh. But he said that's a lot less painful than, you leaving this alone and then having it become some of these other serious problems.
According to Dr. Babbar, you have this in your report. Quote, we in the U.S. think it's between 100 to 200,000 men will experience a penile fracture, and certainly I think that's underreported because many men, due to embarrassment, will not go in and ride it out at home, which isn't the right thing to do. So this is 200,000 men is the tip of the iceberg. This could be a bigger problem than we understand even now. Could be 1 million men with a fractured penis.
That's a tragedy right there. But aside from that, I was just sitting here thinking, like, why do you think this would happen, like, around Christmas, around Valentine's Day? I mean, aside from the whole, like, we're having, sort of a overactive sex life or something. And I was like, well, maybe it's because, you buy someone something nice at Christmas and then it really leads to, like, cool romantic stuff, and then on Valentine's Day, you and your significant other have some real romance. I was thinking, like, that's kind of it kind of speaks to we're crazy about each other, just a little too crazy, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I couldn't imagine going to the ER and having this occur. And then how long is you need stitches, you might need some massage, I don't know what you get. How long is your penis still fractured? How long does it take for it to heal?
Yeah, I asked him that. He said that it's usually about 6 weeks that he'll tell you have to go home, refrain from wild, crazy sexual activity, and let this rest and recover. But he said, go in and get it rechecked before you just start traditional use again, because if you don't and it's not healed, you risk re-injury and things even worse. And now, what was really interesting in this research was that they found this was higher in people having extramarital affairs. What do you think of that?
Well, I guess you get a little regimented when you're married. So if men have a duty to respond to a new relationship, that's another problem. Women have expectations that are often unrealistic. And I think many in extramarital affairs, some guys may want to show they're like Tarzan and they want to go flat out, and maybe their body isn't up to that. Now, the second part of this, Liz Bonis at Channel 12, is this has happened. I understand that sometimes you take some of these drugs or whatever that keep things at attention, and then you can't let it relax. That after several hours, the penis doesn't relax, shall we say. That's the opposite of breaking it if you can't let it go down, because the Viagra, et cetera, is supposed to build things up. But then I've seen medical reports that men cannot relax it at all. And you have to, after several hours at attention, you have to go to the ER. So on one hand, you got a fractured penis. On the other hand, you have one that won't relax. Which is worse?
I have heard that, but I think that they put that in the ads just to make sure that you buy the medicine.
Please.
I mean,
this goes on for hours.
I know. But, you were saying the women have unrealistic expectations, but we don't have a little blue pill. So I think it's you guys that have the unrealistic expectations of what you were able to do, because we're not demanding 4 hours at a clip,
No, it's the opposite.
I think even with those drugs, you can have some of these fractures and things happen because, you're going for a long time and, it's not a good thing. But if it happens, you're gonna need the little blue pill a lot more than you thought. So you better get it fixed.
Maybe you need a red pill and let it go down or something.
You guys won't go to the doctor to get your blood pressure checked. I can only imagine how often this happens, and you're never walking in. He said it often happens in the middle of the night and stuff, and they get called in for emergencies and that. And it's not that unusual that the doctor gets called in the middle of the night for a heart procedure or something. So why would this be any different?
I guess it's possible.
You just need to think of it with the same importance.
Because I imagine it would swell up. It'd be an ugly situation. It'd be embarrassing. I know what Dr. Karyakis told me about 4 years ago when I got my aortic valve replaced, that what you need to do is take your blood pressure every other day. And I didn't do it for 2 weeks. Finally, my wife Penny went to Walgreens to buy one of those blood pressure cups and brought it back because I don't want to deal with it. I figure if I ignore it, it's likely to go away. And so I can't imagine having this problem. But I think every time it'd be so painful to have a penis fracture that you'd have to get it attended to almost immediately. There's a lot of nerves down there. You know what I'm saying?
I would guess that too, and I would also guess that it is not something you can ignore. I mean, You're going to start noticing that eggplant appearance pretty soon, don't you think?
I think so.